Hello FPL managers and welcome back for another video. My name's Jack and today we're going over day 2 of the price reveals for the new FPL 2023-24 season. There have been some big teams announced in these price reveals, so stay tuned throughout the video as we go through 10 new teams that have announced a few players being revealed in FPL. As always, if you're new to the channel or liking or looking forward to the new FPL season, leave a like and subscribe. It really does help us out, and have those notification bells turned on so you don't miss any future FPL videos in the build up to the new FPL year. And with that being said, let's jump into the video. So Chelsea was one of the first teams to release their prices on day 2 of the price reveals, and there definitely is some key players amongst this Chelsea squad which I did want to discuss. First of all, Nkunku was their feature player and I really like him at 7.5. Currently I have built a second sort of updated draft for my team, and Nkunku is actually my starting forward right now. I really like Chelsea's fixtures to start this season. I don't think Liverpool at home is that bad of a fixture. Neither is West Ham away. Then they have Luton, Forest and Bournemouth. 3 superb fixtures from game weeks 3 through 5. So I think Nkunku could definitely make a fast start in this Chelsea team. Obviously under new management, hopefully this Chelsea side is full of goals for the new upcoming season. So I like Nkunku at that price at 7.5. A little bit cheaper than the likes of Ollie Watkins. And I think to get a Chelsea striker the same price as Mitrovic as well at 7.5 is pretty good value. And when you compare Nkunku to what Timo Werner's price was a couple of seasons ago when he was up top for Chelsea, Nkunku is definitely a little bit cheaper, so I like him for those reasons. Raheem Sterling, despite being dropped to 7 million, no, yes, it's a nice price drop, but I'm probably not going to go anywhere near Sterling this season. Maybe if he can find some form later on in the year and can string together some consistent starts, then he could be a consideration, but considering how many good midfielders there are right now in FPL, and I'll go over a couple of those guys that have been announced. They've got some really good prices, some of the other midfielders, so I think Sterling is probably going to be a player to avoid for me in midfield, despite the really good price drop. And then Reece James and Ben Chilwell, 2 of the more popular Chelsea options, I would have to assume coming into the new season. They're always their most popular picks in any given year, but I like Reece James at 5.5. I think that's a reasonable price for him. I think Chilwell at 5.5 is also reasonable. I was hoping for 5, just considering how many games he missed last season, but 5.5 still fair enough for him. I think Chelsea, from a defensive standpoint, also have really good fixtures. West Ham didn't score a massive amount of goals last season, neither did Forest or Bournemouth, so I think Chelsea for those fixtures could make a fast start. They could pick up 2 or 3 clean sheets in from game weeks 2 through 5. I wouldn't expect them to get a clean sheet against Liverpool at home in game week 1. But of course, not only do Reece James and Chilwell have that good clean sheet potential from game weeks 2 through 5, they always have good attacking thread. They're always getting up the pitch, making really good overlapping runs, and they do consistently pick up goals and assists across their campaigns when they are fit and healthy. Of course, that is the main concern with Reece James and Chilwell. They keep getting injured. Hopefully for their sakes and Chelsea's sake, if they can stay healthy for the whole season, they should be one of the highest scoring defenders amongst all other FPL options at the back. So I think Reece James and Chilwell will be 2 very, very good picks, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them in quite a few squads to start the new season. And also, let's move on to Newcastle prices now. Another team with lots of popular FPL assets at the moment. Kieran Trippier got announced as their feature player at 6.5. I like him in defense. Probably not quite at that price point though. He was really good last season. I had him for my game week 1 side pretty much throughout the whole entire year. I think the only time I sold him actually was in game week 38 last season. I went for a 1-week punt. Yes, he is a good option, but I don't like him right now. 6.5, a little bit too expensive. I'd expect that price to drop a little bit across the season, and with Newcastle's fixtures to start the new year as well, I think avoiding Newcastle options for the first 5 game weeks definitely a wise decision. Villa, City, Liverpool, Brighton and Brentford, definitely some very difficult fixtures. They score an 18 on the FPL added up across their first 5. So definitely one of the sides with harder fixtures to start the new season. Also, Newcastle defensively were very poor in the second half of last season. After the World Cup break, they had one of the lowest clean sheet tallies out of any team in the league. I believe Leicester only scored worse in terms of clean sheet tallies. So Kieran Trippier at 6.5, probably not the best value right now, considering Newcastle's poor defensive form and their difficult fixtures to start the new season. Bruno Guimaraes as well at 6 mil. I think it's not quite the right price for him. I would have liked 5.5. And once again, considering how many other good midfielders picks there are, I don't really see why anyone would want to go for Bruno Guimaraes in the middle of the park, especially given those fixtures. Isak at 7.5, probably a fair price for him. Maybe 7 mil could have been a bit more appealing. When he does play in conjunction with Callum Wilson, we've seen him push out wide, and Wilson does occupy that central role. So Isak's probably going to be getting more assists and goals if he is starting together with Callum Wilson. Whereas if he's on his own, obviously he's going to be playing up top, being that sole striker. The other thing to consider with Isak is when Callum Wilson is playing, Wilson showed last season that he is on penalties, so Isak is not going to get pens when Wilson's on the pitch, which is also something to keep in mind. I'll be interested to see some of those other Newcastle forwards price. And Botman as well at 4.5, I like him. He's probably my favourite Newcastle option so far that's been announced. I think Trippier a little bit too expensive at 6.5, but Botman I think is the right price at 4.5 there. He could provide some good value, especially later on in the season where people are looking for some cheap 4.5 options. Botman could be a really good pick. And moving on to the third team here, Manchester United, a lot of popular options from this side. Fernandes was announced as the featured player. He's coming in at 8.5. He's now cheaper than Marcus Rashford. I do really like Bruno Fernandes now that he's cheaper than Marcus Rashford. Of course, Fernandes should have penalties as well, which is another string to his bow. And Man U, with their good fixtures to start the new season, could provide some good FPL assets. They've got Wolves, Spurs, Forest, Arsenal, and Brighton. So 3 out of their first 5 are at home. I really like Wolves, Forest, and Brighton all at home there. Spurs away, Arsenal away are a little bit more tricky, but going after those fixtures at Old Trafford could be the way forward for the Manchester United options to start the new season. Obviously, Marcus Rashford coming in at 9 mil. He saw a significant price rise. Started at 6.5 mil last season. Extremely cheap, has seen over £2 million price rise, a 2.5 price rise for Rashford. I think it is justified. He scored over 200 points last season. Couldn't quite match Fernandes' season in 2020/21, I believe, but Fernandes scored 244 points. Last season was Rashford's best year with 202 or 205, I believe, compared to Fernandes' 244 point season. So maybe looking at those numbers, comparing their best seasons across FPL, Fernandes could be a better pick at 8.5. He's on penalties. He does have some free kicks and set pieces as well. And now that he's 0.5 cheaper than Rashford, maybe Fernandes could even be the preferred option to Marcus Rashford coming into the new year. I'll be interested to see what FPL managers do based on these new price points. And Darlow at 5.0, I like him there. And Luke Shaw especially at 5.5. I was expecting him to come in at 6 mil, but at 5.5, he's gone straight into my team, into my updated draft. I really like Luke Shaw at this price. I think it's a very good asset to own. He obviously, when he's playing fullback, has a much increased attacking potential. We saw him play at centre back a lot of last season due to some injuries with Martinez and Varane. But when those guys were back, Luke Shaw pushed out to a fullback role, looks so much more threatening, and he does have such a greater attacking potential. He attempts so many more assists, has such a higher expected assist figure when he is playing in left back. So hopefully Manchester United centre backs are all healthy for the rest of this season, or for the whole of this season. Luke Shaw can play in his fullback role, and I think he's really going to flourish given those good fixtures to start the season. Wolves at home, especially game week 1, is a golden clean sheet opportunity, and Manchester United were extremely good defensively at Old Trafford last season. So with 3 fixtures at home in their first 5, going after their defence could be a wise move. And Luke Shaw at 5.5, I really do like his price point. And before we jump into those West Ham players, let's have a word from NordVPN. Today's video is powered by NordVPN. NordVPN is a tool that encrypts your internet traffic and hides your IP address as well as your virtual location. The reason I like a VPN is that it significantly boosts your online privacy and security, and thanks to its encryption, third parties cannot spy on your online activity. Even your own internet service provider cannot see what you do online. A VPN also allows you to overcome internet censorship. All your traffic is routed to a remote server, so you can access websites restricted in your country. This is also one of my favorite features of NordVPN, as this can allow you to watch sports and shows that you otherwise wouldn't be able to access where you live in the world, which is good for watching Premier League in a country that maybe you can't get access to, or watch other domestic competitions. Furthermore, you can upload files safely to the cloud without having the risk of having your information stolen by third parties, which is also a huge bonus. And another beneficial aspect of the VPN is that it allows for a faster and more stable internet connection than you otherwise would have if you didn't have the VPN installed. So get NordVPN via the link in the description down below. So here are the West Ham assets. Not too many standout options here apart from Jared Bowen. I do really like him at 7.0. I think he can compete for a midfield slot now at that price point. He was over 8 mil last season, a little bit too pricey for Bowen. There was quite a big reaction to his price last season because he scored over 200 points the season before. Didn't have quite as good season this year. Still a fairly decent year, scoring around 150 points in FPL last campaign for West Ham. But now it's 7 mil. I think he is a really good option. Probably a little bit unfortunate not to have more goals last season. Scored 6 goals in last year's Premier League campaign, but had an XG of nearly 10. So had he scored an extra 3 or 4 goals, he would have been one of the highest scoring midfielders, and his price would have been so much more different. And I think a lot of FPL managers would be looking at him more seriously as an option in midfield. And I think West Ham do have the fixtures for him to score well at the start of the season, especially in their first 4. Bournemouth away is a great fixture to start off West Ham's campaign. Chelsea at home, definitely not the worst fixture either. Neither is Brighton away. Then they have Luton away in gameweek 4. Obviously, a newly promoted side this season, and going after those fixtures against Luton this year could be the way forward. So I do like Bowen at 7.0. Yes, he's going to be a big differential in midfield, but at 7 mil, I think that's a really good option to consider. Had some great underlying numbers last season, had an XG of nearly 10, an XA of around 7, which is fairly high. Had he just scored 9 or 10 goals instead of his 6 last year, he would have scored so much better in FPL. He's got the fixtures coming up. He's shown that he can score lots of goals in the Premier League in the past, obviously coming off a 200-point season previously. He has the potential to score big in terms of FPL points and a very reasonable price decrease for Jared Bowen. So I like him. Otherwise, Mikel Antonio, Said Benrahma, both at 6 mil. I don't really like either of those guys. For just 1 mil more in midfield, you can get Bowen compared to Benrahma, which I think is such a better option. Bowen had way better underlying stats than Benrahma last year. And Antonio at 6 mil, there could be a bit of rotation up top for West Ham. And I think Antonio's a little bit past it now. So I think 6 mil, yes, it's a nice price decrease, but still I wouldn't go near Antonio. And again, at 4.5, provides me with good confidence that most West Ham defenders should be priced at 4.5 this year. I'd be interested to see what their goalkeeper pricing is like. Hopefully it's at 4.5, considering they didn't have the best season in terms of clean sheet tally last season, but 4.5 is a fair price for again. Moving on to the next side, Crystal Palace, another team with not too many standard FPL options. Eze was their feature player at 6.5, not a bad price. I would have liked him at 6 mil. His underlying numbers aren't huge. Hopefully he does get more set pieces and penalties potentially this season. He did score a penalty late on last season. And Wolf Zaha doesn't have the best record from the pen spot, so maybe Crystal Palace do hand their pen duties over to Eze. This would definitely make him a lot more tempting to get a pen taker at 6.5 mil in midfield. It definitely is a very good value, and Crystal Palace don't have the worst fixtures to start the new year. Really, just apart from that fixture in Gameweek 2 against Arsenal at home, they have some pretty good fixtures in their first 5. Sheffield, Brentford, Wolves, Villa, outside of that Arsenal fixture. So maybe you could look to Eze as a differential in midfield. Me personally, I'm probably not going to go for him. I want to see whether he is going to be on penalties and continue to be on penalties this season. That's going to be a big selling point of Eze and how he can start the new campaign. Had an excellent end to last season's campaign, warranting his price rise, but hopefully he can continue this form on and make him a good FPL option midfield. There just seems to be so many good FPL midfield picks right now. It's going to be hard to squeeze in Eze to those players in the middle of the park. Otherwise, all 3 defensive options, Johnston, Mitchell and Gehi, all at 4.5, all reasonably priced in my opinion. I do like Tyreek Mitchell the most out of those guys, obviously playing in a more attacking role compared to Johnson and Gehi, obviously. So I think Mitchell, a nice price there at 4.5. Hopefully, now that Roy Hodgson has signed on for Crystal Palace until 2024, he can secure or increase their defensive security, increase their clean sheet tally coming into next season, as it wasn't quite as good as it was in previous years last year under Patrick Vieira. So hopefully Hodgson can bring back that defensive solidarity, which could see Johnston, Mitchell and Gehi become quite nice value picks. Moving on, Arsenal. This was a quite heavily talked about team in terms of FPL price reveals. A lot of popular options from Arsenal, especially last season. They had so many good defensive picks. Ramsdale was good, Zinchenko was good, Ben White was good. Everyone was jumping on Gabriel and Saliba. They had so many good midfield picks. Jesus was a good option as well at the start of last season. So there was quite a few really good prices revealed here for Arsenal, I have to say. Saka at 8.5 first of all. He wasn't a feature player. Odegaard was the player that got announced early for Arsenal at 8.5. I think that's a reasonable price for Odegaard. And given Odegaard's price at 8.5, considering Saka had penalties, I was expecting him to be more expensive at 9.0 or even 9.5. But seeing Saka at 8.5 is such a nice price. I think that's a really, really good FPL price for Bukayo Saka. Only a 0.5 increase on last season. And considering that he scored over 200 points, probably a little bit generous from FPL to give us Bukayo Saka at just 8.5. He's going straight into my team as well. I was tossing up whether I was going to be able to afford Saka at 9.0. Maybe I was going to go for Odegaard at 8.5 or potentially Martinelli, who's probably going to be at 8 or 8.5 given these price reveals so far. I don't really see why Martinelli would be priced the same as Bukayo Saka, especially considering Saka has penalties. But I guess Odegaard was at 8.5, so maybe Martinelli is coming in at the same price. But looking at these Arsenal fixtures, you have to have at least 2, maybe even 3 Arsenal options to start the new season. Forest, Palace, Fulham, United, Everton as their first 5 fixtures. Probably the best fixtures out of any team. It's probably between Arsenal and Manchester City for fixture difficulty for the first 5 game weeks being the easiest out of any teams. Bukayo Saka is probably my favourite option from Arsenal right now at 8.5. Jesus, seeing him at 8 mil as well in the forward line. I think it's a decent price for him. He could be a really, really good forward option if people wanted to pair Erling Haaland with Jesus as their front 2 up top. If they're playing a front 2, definitely could be worthwhile. It is definitely something that I could do. Currently, I did say Nkunku was my starting forward. In my mock draft so far, I've still got an extra 1 mil in the bank, so I could potentially upgrade Nkunku to Jesus, get a forward that I know can perform in the Premier League and had some really good underlying numbers when he was healthy for Arsenal. When he was playing, he did have the highest expected goals and highest shots per 90 out of any one of those Arsenal players in their team, so he does get really good chances for the Gunners, and he is generally pretty clinical for Arsenal, so hopefully he can continue scoring goals for them and stay healthy in the new season. He could be a really nice option at 8 mil. Havertz, the new signing to Arsenal, was announced as well at 7.5. Probably not a player that I'm going to go near. I'll be interested to see what his role is like in an Arsenal team, if he's going to be a lot more attacking, or maybe he plays more of a centre mid role. Obviously, they already have Odegaard as that type of cam player, but I'd be interested to see how Havertz slots into this team, and maybe he can increase his goal tally from midfield at Arsenal compared to where he was playing up top at Chelsea. It's definitely going to be very interesting to see this dynamic in the Arsenal midfield, and Zinchenko there at 5.0 gives me good confidence that a lot of those Arsenal defenders will be priced similarly at 5 mil. Hopefully you can get their centre backs for 5 mil, and Ben White at 4.5 or 5 mil would be a really, really good option as well. Zinchenko at 5, I like him there. I think that's a reasonable price for him at fullback. When he was playing and wasn't injured last season, he was very, very productive. Was an excellent asset at the start of this campaign, start of last season's FPL campaign. So I think he could do the same once again with some really good fixtures for Arsenal. Let's take a look at some Aston Villa prices now. A couple of decent options to consider from Villa, considering that their starting 5 fixtures aren't the worst. Newcastle away in game week 1's not great. Neither is Liverpool away in game week 4, but Everton, Burnley and Crystal Palace as 3 out of their first 5 fixtures are some very good fixtures for Villa to start the new season. My standout favourite picks will be Watkins and Alex Moreno. Watkins at 8 mil also is going to rival Jesus for that forward slot. Watkins was excellent last season. He's got lots of goals, especially at the back end of last year. He's shown that he can do it in previous seasons as well. So I think Ollie Watkins there at 8 mil, a very reasonable price for him. I think he's going to be quite a popular forward pick for game week 1 amongst a lot of teams. I think it's going to be between him, Jesus and Nkunku maybe at 7.5 to 8 mil price bracket. They're going to be the 3 very popular forwards at that price point. And Alex Moreno there as well at 5 mil. Aston Villa had a pretty solid season defensively last year. Picked up quite a few clean sheets. Moreno has some really good attacking potential. Linked up extremely well actually with Ollie Watkins at the back end of last season. Provided an assist to Watkins quite a few times actually when Watkins went on that really, really good scoring run at the back end of last year. So I think Moreno getting forward makes some really good attacking runs, puts a lot of crosses into the box. So at 5 mil, he could be a really good differential option in defence this season. A lot of people are going to be looking to Arsenal, Man U, Man City defenders. Maybe the Aston Villa defence could be worthwhile capitalising on. And Alex Moreno at 5 mil, I think he could be one of the dark horses of the competition in terms of FPL points amongst defenders. So I like him there. And Emi Martinez at 5 mil as well in goals. I think it's a reasonable price for him. He's got a good balance of save and clean sheet potential. Whereas Emi Buendia, I don't think is my favourite pick at 6 mil. Probably not the best value for him. I would probably go for Watkins if I was going to go for any Aston Villa attacker. Quickly moving on to Bournemouth, not too many great picks here. Slanky at 6.5, not a bad price. Didn't score a massive amount of goals last season, scored single digits for goals and assists. Was actually one of the better assisters amongst forwards in FPL last year, but Bournemouth right now don't have the fixtures for me to jump on any of their options. West Ham, Liverpool, Spurs, Brentford, Chelsea in their first 5. Definitely not the easiest from an attacking standpoint. I don't like Traore or Rothwell at those prices. They've hardly scored any goals or assists last season or the season before for Bournemouth or their respective clubs. So I don't like them at that price. I would have expected at least Rothwell to be at 4.5. A bit unfortunate that he's coming in at 5 there. So currently no 4.5 midfielders that have been announced that are consistently starting. I'm hoping we can get one when the rest of the prices do get revealed. I'm sweating on it a little bit. I was hoping Brown Hill would be at 4.5. He was announced at 5. Traore, Rothwell both at 5 as well. It's a bit of a pain. And Zabania at 4.5. I think it's a reasonable price for him. Would have been nice to see him at 4.0 considering that he's only scored 3 goals in his entire career. That's including youth games and senior games as well. So hopefully, I was hoping that he was going to be 4.0, 4.5. Not the worst price, but I would think 4.0 would be a more reasonable price for him. Nonetheless, I'm probably not going to be going for any Bournemouth defenders anyway, so can't be too fast about those price points there. And the last team that we're going to go over is Brighton. A lot of good value here in this Brighton side. Matoma was announced earlier as their feature player at 6.5. I was expecting him at 7, so I think 6.5 a very reasonable price. And then Solimarch and Gross are coming in at the same price as well in midfield, all at 6.5. I think considering that these 3 players are now priced the same, Matoma is the standout option. He was one of the more expensive players that people predicted in that Brighton midfield. I think a lot of people had him at 7, probably March at 6.5, maybe Gross the same at 6.5. So considering that Matoma is coming in at the same price as those other Brighton mids, he's probably going to be the standout option for those Brighton midfielders. And a Stupinan there at 5 mil, I really like him in that price point. I thought he might have been up to 5.5 this year considering how good he was from an attacking standpoint. Picked up 6 assists last season, was one of the top assisters, got himself a goal against Arsenal late on in the season as well. Had very good underlying numbers in terms of attempted assists and expected assists, ranked in the top 5 for defenders for attempted and expected assists last season. Brighton did have a decent clean sheet tally. Stupinan picked up 10 clean sheets last year, and he's got some good fixtures to start the new season as well. Luton and Wolves, especially in game weeks 1 and 2, 2 great chances for Brighton clean sheets. So I think a Stupinan is going to be an extremely popular defensive option this season. 5 mil. Brighton have some superb fixtures to start the new year from a defensive standpoint. And Stupinan makes great runs up the pitch, has great attacking potential, so I think he's going to be one of the best value defenders at 5 mil this season, and I'm really looking forward to building my team after seeing these prices, as it has made affording double premiums for me so much easier. So thanks for watching day 2 of the price reveals for the 2023-24 FPL season. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, leave a like and subscribe. It really does help us out. Have those notification bells turned on so you don't miss any future FPL videos. And let me know, guys, what you thought of these prices. Is there any options that stand out to you? Has anyone been overpriced and you're just not going to go anywhere near them? I'll be interested to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one.